Hello, welcome back to my channel. So a little while ago I was on Facebook and I came across this ad for a corset by, I want to say Cider Corsets, and I'll put a picture of it here. And I really like the way this corset looked, but I hate when I'm on any kind of social media platform and I get ads that I'm like, I could buy that, because I find it kind of creepy and I don't really want to be spending my money on things that I had no intention of spending my money on 2 seconds ago. So I came across that ad, thought it was really cute, and I saved it because I was like, who knows, maybe it could be a reference for something. Then a little while later I was at Target and I came across this top, which I felt had a similar vibe, kind of the corset bodice look, and it was that floral tapestry fabric almost. So since I was at Target and I saw it and I liked it, I bought it, and when I took it home and tried it on, it did not fit at all. It was just like the proportions did not work with my body. So I thought it would be fun if I came across some kind of fabric that was akin to that. Maybe I could try making it. So a little while after that, I was at Goodwill just looking through the fabric stash, and I came across these 4 placemats which have a nice floral pattern to them and kind of like that tapestry feel to them. And I got the 4 of them for $4.99, and they're double-sided. So with these, I should have, I think, plenty of fabric to make a bodice for myself, as well as have a lining. And since both sides are good fabric, I thought maybe it could be reversible. So that is the goal for this week. I'm going to try to take these 4 placemats and make a bodice which is inspired by the one that I saw in that advertisement, and if I can manage it, I will try to make it reversible and use both sides of the fabric. So to get started, I think what I'm going to do is just seam rip these and take them apart. I think there might be some kind of batting in between the 2 fabrics to give it a little bit of thickness, so I'm going to see if that is the case and take that out and lay these all out, see how much fabric I have to work with. Then I'm probably going to do the process of cellophane and duct tape to get a pattern, but for now I'm just going to start by seam ripping these, so let's go. Okay, so I just finished taking apart the first placemat. It took a little less than an hour to take it apart, and I'm only gaining about an inch around from getting rid of the seam. So I think rather than spending my time taking all these apart to only gain about an inch of fabric, I'm going to try to do the pattern and then figure out if I need that extra inch of fabric. If I don't, I won't bother taking apart the other 3 because this is heckin' time consuming, and why do work I don't have to do. So instead, I'm going to move on to trying to make the pattern, which I'll probably get to tomorrow because it's late and I need to eat dinner later. I am back. It's been a minute, but today I'm going to be doing the process of making the pattern for the bodice. To do that, I'm going to change into something form-fitting. So let me change and then we can get started. For this process, it's probably easier if you have a second person, but I'm going to do it myself to show you that you can do it yourself. It's just a little bit of a struggle, but let me get changed and then we will get started. So to get started, I changed into an old tank top that is form-fitted, no extra bulk, as well as leggings with no extra bulk, and a bra that is not padded to give the most accurate silhouette I can give. I also specifically chose an old tank top, so if I happen to cut it in the process of cutting off the cellophane and duct tape, I won't be too upset about it. As far as materials to have on hand, you will need cellophane / cling wrap, duct tape, a marker, and some scissors. I would gather those things before you start, and with that, I'm just gonna go. I should have put my hair up for this. I feel like that would make it easier. Okay, so now that I have a layer of cling wrap down, I'm just gonna start putting duct tape around, laying it as flat as possible. I'm going to try to get it as flat as possible as I can in the back. It doesn't need to be perfect, it's just going to be a rough pattern. So I'm specifically going to emphasize certain parts of my body, so under my bust, my waist, and then I'm going to go kind of diagonally across my chest to preserve the contour as much as possible. You know when your coworkers ask, "What are you doing over the weekend?" I don't tell them this. So I'm all taped up, or at least as taped up as I can get. You can probably tell better than I can what the back looks like. I just moved a mirror over here, which probably would have been useful to have from the beginning. But I was able to see I missed a bunch of stuff in the back, so I'm getting that now. So now that I have my tape all laid out, I'm going to use my marker to trace out what I want the bodice to look like. I'm going to be using that cider bodice that I first saw as my reference. And now that I have my mirror propped up here, I'm just going to go and try to lay it out as best I can. I'm going to start with my best idea of what a midline is, and then I'll draw each half, and when I'm done I'll pick the half that I like the best, and I'll make 2 copies of that, one for the left, one for the right. Their seams come down pretty straight, but I almost like the idea of it tapering in more. I don't know. I do not know. Something like that, maybe? I don't know. So I think this is roughly what I'm going with for now. I will cut it off and probably give you a better look at it, and we will go from here. But right now I'm just gonna cut the mid seam, take it off, and then try to shore up my lines. Let's see if we can do this with some precision. Freedom! Woof. It's actually pretty hot because my AC is loud and I have to shut it off to film, so it's hot in her. I did miss some spots, as you can see, so I'm gonna quickly tape those up and then analyze what I have and see if I like it, and try to solidify lines so they're not all these scribbly bits. So I don't know how clear you can see what I did, so I'm just going to explain it quick. What would have been smart would have been to go in with a light color marker first and then do my final lines with a darker colored marker. But I just moved and everything is all over the place, so I was able to find a black Sharpie first. So I just scavenged and was able to find a green Sharpie. So I did my final lines with that. I also got a ruler to make sure they're nice and straight. I am going to stick with the right side for the final corset because I like this side better. So I'm going to cut this side out and then see how it lines up on our placemats, and I will have to do 2 of these, that way I have a left and a right. So let's continue with that. So once I cut out my pattern, I transferred it to paper. That way I could cut out my left and right side and lay everything out on my fabric. Here I'm doing it very quickly and adding about 1/2 inch for my seam allowance. I did go back later and make a clean version where I actually measured out my seam allowance and added 1 inch on my front pieces where the grommets would be, but I was being impatient, so this was just to see if I had enough fabric for everything or if I would need to seam rip the rest of the placemats, which, spoiler alert, I did. Once I figured out my placement, I cut out all my pieces from the golden fabric of the placemats and sewed all those pieces together with the front of my bodice at either end. Then I did the same thing for my floral fabric, figuring out placement, cutting out all my pieces, and then sewing the pieces together. And here you can see the outer and inner layer of the bodice. I ended up buying trim because I wanted straps. To figure out placement and length for my straps, I just wore one of the bodice layers and pinned it in place. I then pinned the straps as so and sandwiched them between my two layers, right sides facing together. I then pinned along the top, making sure to match up the seams of my panels, which, if you'll notice, are iron so they lay nice and flat. I then sewed that top edge together. Then repeated for the bottom edge, lining up my seams and then sewing together. Once it was all sewn together, I flipped it so the right sides were facing out. Now to finish up the front, I folded in that inch I had added to the front pieces and ironed it flat. This is just for extra stability for the grommets. And then I sewed as close to the edge as I could get. Making my holes for the grommets was honestly the hardest part. I tried so many different tools to try and make clean holes, but because I was cutting through 4 layers of fabric, scissors, an X-Acto knife, and even my leather hole punch did not work. Ultimately, what I found worked was heating up an awl with a blowtorch and then burning my holes. I didn't film this because I did it at work. It did work out really well, but if anyone has a better method, please let me know. So overall, I'm really happy with how it came out. It is not perfect, but this was my first attempt trying to make my own pattern to then sew into a wearable piece. Last time I did a pattern like this, it was paper mache. So this is my first time actually like sewing a bodice-like thing, and I'm pretty pleased overall. The parts I'm not super happy about are, I don't know how, but this came to like an outward point, which it's not terrible, but I don't know how or why that happened. I did add the extra bit on the front, but that got tucked in, so I don't know why it's doing that. The other thing is this top edge. One of them was laying better than the other one. Right now I can't tell, but one of them rounded more and one of them came more to a point. I think it might be this one, I'm not sure. For my first attempt, I'm happy with it. Just goes to show that you don't have to exactly know what you're doing and you can figure it out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you use this video as a reference to make a bodice of your own, I'd love to see it, so feel free to tag me on Instagram and I'll put it somewhere on the screen. Or if you want to see more of what I do, you can follow me. If you enjoyed this video, please think about giving it a like. If you want to see more videos, please think about subscribing. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye! And make a bodice for myself. I'm going to try to make, and then I will probably do the old cellophane and duct tape. Be referencing that first corset that I'm going to be referencing that first. Then I will probably do the cellophane and duct tape process to get my